13 spine-chilling gas station horrors exposed, terrifying tales that will haunt your sleep forever. The gas station stood like a dark sentinel at the corner of Maplewood, its flickering lights casting eerie shadows. Sarah's heart raced as she pulled in, the familiar routine suddenly feeling off. Carl, the new attendant, flashed a grin that sent shivers down her spine. It was too wide, too eager. As he rang up her snacks, his eyes darted outside, scanning the street as if he were searching for something or someone. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up, an unsettling instinct clawing at her from within. She shook her head, attributing her discomfort to exhaustion, her late shift at the diner weighing heavy. But the feeling lingered, like a ghost hiding just beyond her sight. As she drove home, every shadow seemed to stretch longer, the night darker. Ethan was waiting, she reminded herself, and she needed to be strong for him. Yet the feeling of being watched gnawed at her sanity, intertwining with each idle turn of tires against asphalt. Days turned into nights, and Sarah pondered the world around her. Strange cars lingered longer on their street, headlights spilling pale light into her living room, illuminating the modest decor like a stage of a horror show. Whispers drifted through their thin walls at night, hushed tones that echoed the anxiety tightening her chest. Then, gnawing anxiety spiraled into full-blown terror when she heard unsettling news. Teenagers were vanishing from neighboring towns, each last seen near ordinary faces that now seemed painted with menace. That night she left for her shift with a rising dread. Panic clawed at her, whispering that she should never have left Ethan alone. As she wiped down the diner tables, time faded, the mundane shifting under the weight of her fears. She didn't know Carl's true intentions, lurking in the darkness of her neighborhood as she worked, a predator encroaching on the sanctuary she had built. The sounds of rattling dishes filled her ears. Laughter echoed, deafening, yet emptily distant. She felt the walls closing in, with every glance toward the gas station, where Carl was no doubt planning his next move. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Just as her resolve hardened, Ethan's text pierced the tension of the evening. "Mom, someone's on the porch." The blood drained from Sarah's face. Her stomach turned, dread pulsating as she imagined the terror waiting for him just outside their door. The vulnerability of their ordinary life hung precariously in the balance. As she raced through the diner's door, heart thundering, she understood. Whatever lurked in the shadows had finally come for them. The suburban whispers were now dangerously real, a monstrous truth unveiling that could tear them apart. What awaited her at home? Would she be strong enough to confront it? The drive home felt eternal. Sarah's fingers gripped the steering wheel so tightly that her knuckles turned white, each passing shadow bending reality into a nightmare. Every leaf rustling in the wind echoed like the whispers that haunted her at night. She didn't dare glance at her phone again. Dread told her that she should keep her eyes on the road. As the familiar streetlights flickered by, the image of Ethan on the porch consumed her thoughts. Was he scared? Was he alone? Panic surged through her veins. Had that unsettling attendant followed her home? Sweat trickled down her back as she turned into her driveway, tires crunching gravel like bones underfoot. The moment she saw the porch light casting its dim glow, she felt a flicker of hope. Then dread crashed back in. "Ethan!" she called as she sprinted toward the front door, her heart hammering. The door creaked open as she arrived, revealing the darkness inside. She stepped over the threshold, breath hitching as she peered into the hallway. It felt like entering a tomb, silent and heavy. "Mom?" Ethan's voice was a whisper, dripping with fear. He emerged from the shadows, his little frame trembling. Relief washed over her, but it was short-lived. She knelt down, pulling him into her trembling embrace. As he snuggled against her, she caught a flicker of movement outside the window. A shadow. "Did you see anyone?" she asked, heart racing again, eyes pinned to the glass. She held her breath. "Anyone at all?" He shook his head, but even in his innocence, she sensed the fear beneath those bright eyes. "I heard noises. I thought it was just the wind." Sarah closed her eyes, fighting to keep panic at bay. The wind whispered secrets she didn't want to know. "Let's lock the door, okay?" she said calmly, though her mind screamed that it wasn't calm at all. Together, they moved through the house, locking every door, checking every window. Every click sent a bolt of certainty through her. Safety was still within reach. Moments later, sitting in the living room, her breath steadied. She was trying to convince herself that everything would be okay. Ethan seemed to take comfort in her presence. But then, the phone rang. It was a shrill sound that shattered the fragile calm. "Who could it be?" Sarah asked, anxiety creeping back in. She hesitated before picking up the receiver, revealing only silence on the other end. "Hello?" she murmured, ears straining. Then, soft and faint, she heard it. Heavy breathing, and a voice that wasn't quite human. "Find me at the gas station. I'm here." The line went dead. Fear plunged through her like a blade. She could feel it in her bones. Carl. Had he known she'd been worried, or was it something worse? She turned to Ethan, his eyes wide, unsure of the terror gripping them both. "Mom, what did they say?" His voice trembled. I don't know, sweetheart." Frantically, she grabbed her phone, trying to call the police. But as she dialed, the connection faltered, buzzing ominously before cutting off completely. "No, no!" Her voice rose in a panic. She exchanged a glance with Ethan, whose expression mirrored her own terror. "Mom, I don't want to stay here." "Just hold on," she whispered. She could hear the faint scratch of nails against the door, an awful reminder of the invitation she had unknowingly extended to darkness. Something sinister was waiting, lurking just beyond their fragile safety. Could they escape this nightmare, or would they become just another tale whispered among the shadows of the gas station? As she braced herself for whatever was coming, Sarah knew one thing above all else: they had to leave now. Would the gas station's dark secrets consume them, or could they uncover the truth before it was too late? "Mom, we have to go!" Ethan's voice broke through her thoughts, high-pitched and urgent. Panic twisted inside her like a knife. The scratches on the door grew more frantic, louder, an unholy percussion matching the chaos in her mind. "Okay, we'll go, but we have to be quiet, all right?" She glanced at Ethan, trying to project courage she didn't feel. He nodded, eyes wide, fists clenched. They slipped through the darkened house, every creak of the floorboards sounding like a scream. Sarah gently pushed open the back door, the moonlight spilling in, revealing a yard suffocated by shadows.
For a heartbeat, she considered bolting out, racing to the car, but a sense of dread rooted her feet to the ground. "What about the front?" Ethan whispered, his tiny voice trembling. "No, we go this way," she said, remembering the way the figure had loomed by the porch earlier. They could avoid it, she hoped. They stepped into the chill night, holding their breath as they inched toward the driveway. The air felt thick and suffocating, shadowy shapes darting at the edges of her vision. "Mom," Ethan gasped, pulling her arm. "What's that?" She followed his gaze. In the distance, the gas station loomed like a beast, its neon sign flickering ominously. But it was something else that caught her eye. A figure, draped in darkness, flitting between the pumps. It moved with an unnatural grace, pausing and then looking right at her. Heart racing, she grabbed Ethan's hand. "Run," she whispered fiercely, sprinting toward the car. Every step came with a fear that they would be snatched back into the dark, a pull that beckoned them to look over their shoulders, but she refused. The car was just ahead, a beacon of hope, but the atmosphere wrapped around them, thick and sticky. They fumbled with the car door, breathless and wild. She could hear it now, the sound of footsteps trailing too closely behind. The scratching at the door had become an echoing laughter in the silence. Was someone chasing them? With her heart pounding in rhythm to the terror, Sarah slammed the door and frantically turned the key in the ignition. The engine sputtered. A cold sweat covered her palms. "Please, please!" The engine roared to life. She glanced at the rearview mirror. No sign of the figure, just darkness stretching into the night. She felt a fleeting moment of relief, but it slipped instantly away as she backed out of the driveway. The gas station's neon glowed in the distance, mocking her fear. As she sped down the familiar road, the shadowy figure slipped from her mind, replaced by an urgent question. Had it been real, or was it a trick of her frayed nerves? Ethan clutched the seat, eyes darting nervously. "Mom, do you think it's gone?" "I don't know, sweetheart," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. The night was still, but beneath that stillness, a feeling loomed. They were not alone. She turned the corner, desperation clawing at her insides. The gas station beckoned like a siren, promising safety and answers, but it was full of horrors that whispered in the dark. "Mom," Ethan said, "what if we go back?" "No, we won't go back." But uncertainty gnawed at her resolve. What if they could find Carl? A sinking feeling gripped her stomach as the thought settled. If he was there, did that mean he was in danger too? Suddenly, her phone buzzed violently on the dashboard, jolting them. A text notification from Carl flashed across the screen, a staccato burst of hope. "Help me, at the gas station." The words hung in the air, echoing with disbelief. She gripped the steering wheel, her heart hammering, a truth dawning on her. Could they really turn back, knowing it might lead them to safety? Or a worse fate? The gas station was a vortex, powerful and terrifying, and it was calling them? She glanced down, battling between instinct and love, and the question loomed. Could they truly uncover the darkness lurking within, or would it consume them whole? As they approached the gas station, the flickering neon light cast unsettling shadows on the pavement, elongating every contour of the building. Sarah's breath quickened, a ball of dread tightening in her chest. The questions crashed around her. Was Carl really in danger? Or was it a cruel trick? "Mom, I don't like this place." Ethan's voice wobbled, his small hands gripping the edge of his seat. "Just a little longer, buddy," she managed to say, but uncertainty twisted her stomach, threatening to make her sick.
She was determined to find Carl, yet every instinct screamed at her to turn back. The old gas station looked abandoned under the harsh glow of the neon sign. Rust clung to the metal pumps like dried blood. As they pulled into the lot, the world seemed quieter, the stillness heavier. The hum of their engine slowly dissipated, leaving them with only the sound of their own rapid breathing. Suddenly, the headlights illuminated a figure slumped against the wall, obscured in shadows, but unmistakably human. Sarah's heartbeat thundered in her ears. "Ethan, stay put," she ordered, her voice steady, though her insides churned. She unbuckled herself and stepped out into the chill. "Mom!" Ethan's protest fell on deaf ears. She needed to know, needed to see for herself. With each step forward, the air felt suffocatingly thick, wrapping her in tendrils of anxiety. The figure remained still, a dark silhouette against the flickering light. Did Carl need her, or was this another trap? A flicker of movement caught her attention, and she froze as she realized it was just the wind shifting loose debris across the pavement. "Carl?" she called out, her voice trembling, uncertain. The figure didn't move. Just then, the gas station door creaked open, and from within, an unnatural chill poured out, wrapping itself around her ankles. Sarah hesitated, the doorway yawning before her like a mouth ready to swallow her whole. "Mom!" Ethan's voice was sharper now, filled with panic. "Let's go!" She stepped back, her instincts arguing fiercely with her need to find Carl. But before she could turn to him, a soft scraping sound came from the gas station propped door, a noise that slid beneath her skin. "Ethan," Sarah whispered, choking on the sudden rise of dread. Yet it was too late. From the shadows of the gas station, another figure emerged. This one was taller. Its eyes glowed an unnatural shade of green, fixating on her. A low growl rumbled through the stillness, deep and melodic, washing over her like ice water. "Mom, please!" Ethan shrieked from the car, eyes wide, shock gripping his tiny frame. It felt as if the very shadows had come alive, slithering to the edges of her vision. "Get back!" Sarah yelled, her heart thundering in rhythm with the pulse of terror wrapping around her. The looming figure took a step forward, its shape shifting like smoke in the moonlight. Time stretched as she stood frozen, paralyzed by fear, watching the thing advance. What was this creature? Some twisted mirage drawn from her worst nightmares? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from inside the gas station. Sarah's instincts kicked in, a primal urge to protect her son coursing through her veins. "Ethan, get out of the car and run to me!" she shouted, desperate. But as Ethan scrambled to obey, the figure lunged forward, a flash of jagged teeth glinting under the neon light. "Mom!" The world exploded around them as chaos erupted.
Sarah dove toward her son, fear surging through her like fire, but she already felt the grip of shadows tightening around her. What awaited them beyond the mouth of the gas station? The creature's growl intensified. The air felt thick and electric. "Move!" Sarah shouted, mustering every ounce of strength, but in that moment her mind reeled. What if Carl was just as trapped as they were? What if whatever was inside was hunting them? They had ventured into the maw of unfathomable darkness. As they dashed toward each other, the night stretched out ominously, the moon hanging low, watching with a sickening glow. Would they escape the horrors lurking within, or would they become another tale lost in the darkness? The door of the gas station creaked, promising answers wrapped in shadows. The creature's growl pierced the air, chilling Sarah to her core. She could hear Ethan scrambling, heart pounding like a drum. A panicked glance showed him inching toward her, eyes filled with terror. "Mom, hurry!" he cried again, voice cracking. With a surge of adrenaline, she lunged forward, arms outstretched, desperate to snatch him up and run. The proximity of that thing ignited her instincts, a primal drive to protect her child. But the shadows danced around them. The figure moved, gliding forward as if the ground was merely an illusion beneath its feet. Sarah's pulse raced, each heartbeat a reminder of how close they were to the edge of something dark and malevolent. Just then, a blaring horn shattered the silence, emanating from a parked truck on the opposite side of the lot. The noise sent the creature reeling back, its glowing eyes narrowing as it shifted its gaze toward the sound. Sarah seized the moment. "Ethan, run now!" she barked, urgency swelling in her voice. They dashed towards the truck, heartbeats sinking in a frantic rhythm. The world blurred as she sprinted, fingers extended for the metal handle. Just as she grasped it, another crash came from inside the gas station, a sound like 1,000 bones snapping at once. "Mom, please!" Ethan's small hand clutched her tightly. She turned, scanning the shadows. The creature was still there, holding back, as if waiting for something, some cue to unleash chaos. Sarah felt an icy tendril of fear creeping up her spine, whispering doubts. What was it waiting for? Was it a predatory game to torment them further? Her mind raced. "Get in, Ethan," she demanded. They jumped into the truck's cab, slamming the door behind them. As she fumbled to start the engine, her eyes flitted to the side mirror. The creature lingered by the gas station, watching, calculating. The engine sputtered, then hesitated. Come on," she urged, fear crawling like insects over her skin. But then a sound pierced the night. A low, guttural scream erupted from the gas station's depths, rising and echoing with spine-chilling clarity. "Mom, what was that?"
"Ethan," whimpered, trembling in the seat next to her. "I don't know," she whispered, feeling small and helpless. Just then, the truck's engine roared to life, shattering the silence. "Yes!" She slammed the gear into drive and sped out of the lot, heart hammering against her ribs. They left the gas station behind, but the scream haunted her, wrapping around her like tendrils of fog. Ethan clutched his knees, eyes wide with terror. "Are we safe?" "Not yet," she replied, glancing in the rearview mirror. The creature stood motionless, now merely a dark figure against the glowing neon light, its eyes still fixed on them as they tore away. But the creature had not moved to pursue them. That fact made her gut twist. As they rounded a bend, Sarah's breath was steadying a bit, though dread wedged itself deeper into her gut. What had that scream meant? Whose was it? She risked glancing back one last time to the gas station. The flickering neon felt like it was calling to her, a siren to a tragic fate. Something stirred in her mind, a nagging thought that wouldn't let her be. "Where's Carl?" she whispered, the question escaping before she could grasp it. Did he hear it? "Mom?" Ethan's voice trembled, anxiety wrapping tightly around them both. "What if he needs us?" Just then, the truck jolted violently, tires skidding over uneven ground. Sarah's heart leaped into her throat as the headlights caught movement, a figure on the roadside. "Stay down!" she yelled, maneuvering the steering wheel. What lay ahead? Whoever or whatever stood in their path could change everything, and dread clawed at her. With the gas station fading in the rear view, a new terror awaited them on the road ahead. What would they find?
Or would they be forced to confront the darkness that was never far behind? The figure flickered in the headlights like a broken reflection. It was a woman, disheveled and pale, her face smeared with dirt and streaks of what looked like dried blood. As Sarah swerved to avoid her, the woman's gaze locked onto them, eyes wide with fear and desperation. "Please, help me!" she screamed, voice punctured by a raw urgency that sent chills through Sarah's already frayed nerves. Ethan gasped, "Mom, we can't just leave her." "No, we keep going," Sarah shouted, her heart racing. The memory of the creature loomed large in her mind, its glowing eyes still haunting her thoughts. But in a moment of guilt and panic, she glanced back. The woman staggered closer, clawing at the air as if trying to reach them. The flicker of hope in her eyes momentarily seemed to cast away the dark shadows that surrounded her. "Mom," Ethan's voice was insistent, trembling in the face of the unknown. "What if she's hurt?" "Ethan, please," Sarah snapped, her nerves fraying. "We don't know if it's safe. We don't even know what happened back there."
In that instant, the dark figure that had lingered behind the gas station emerged into the road. Not the creature, but something closely resembling it. Just as remnant, just as unnerving. The woman's frightened gaze flitted between Sarah and this new horror, and a wave of despair washed over her. "Don't stop," the woman cried, her voice shaking. "It's not safe. We need to get away." The creature lunged from the shadows, a mass of gnashing teeth and jagged limbs, its eyes like burning coals in the night. Adrenaline surged through Sarah as she slammed down on the accelerator, the truck surging forward with a jolt. "Mom!" Ethan screamed, panic echoing in the confines of the cab. "What if it gets her?" She couldn't think about that now. The scream of the woman haunted her, the image of the creature closing in, like a shadow ready to engulf them both. Tires screeched against the pavement as Sarah veered off the road, gravel flying beneath them, shaking the truck violently. The truck's headlights bobbed frantically as they hit the ditch, and for a moment she lost control. Everything went dark and chaotic, a tuneless symphony of crashing metal and shattering glass. Finally, the truck came to a sudden, jarring stop. Heart hammering, Sarah blinked against the darkness outside, adrenaline pulsing through her veins. They were in the woods now, the stench of wet earth and decay filtering through the cracked windows. Ethereal whispers from the tree line slithered into the cab. "Are we stuck?" Ethan breathed, tremors still quaking in his little frame. Sarah scanned the now silent woods, straining to see through the dense shadows. "Just wait," she murmured, wishing desperately for the chance to breathe, to think. And then, from somewhere deep in the trees, the low growl emerged again, richer this time, ominous and creeping, echoing off the leaves like a death knell. It came not just from behind them, but from the front as well, from every direction. A chorus of that unholy sound resonated through the night. "This can't be happening," she whispered, breathing shallowly. Ethan hitched a sob, fear curling tight in his throat. "Mom, we need to get out of here." Suddenly, the woman from the roadside appeared again, her figure lurching through the brush. "Help! You need to—" The growl returned, fiercer than before. Shadowy shapes flickered in the darkness beyond, and Sarah's heart sank as instinct screamed at her to escape. "Ethan!" she called, but the sound of her own voice was swallowed whole by the creature's fearsome growl, looming ever closer. What was out there? Would they survive the night, or would they become yet another chapter in the twisted tale that this gas station had begun? As darkness began to close in around them, realities blurred. Was there any way out?
Or had they just stepped into the depths of a nightmare? The silence of the woods was now alive with the creature's growl, wrapping around them like a noose.
Sarah's heart slammed against her ribs as she watched the woman struggle to approach, her eyes wild with panic. The shadows shifted, flickering, gnashing teeth weaving in and out of the darkness, circling, like predators sizing up their prey. "Mom, we have to go now," Ethan insisted, his voice shaky as he clutched the armrest tightly. "Just hold on," she rasped, her breath coming in quick gasps. The dashboard light barely illuminated Ethan's face, ghostly pale against the encroaching dark. As she peered into the gloom, she could feel it, the sensation of something lurking just beyond her line of sight. The woman stumbled too close to the tree line, caught in the web of unnatural shadows. "Help me!" she shrieked again, desperation etching deeper lines onto her drawn face. "You have to!" Then the ground shivered as something massive burst through the brush. It came from behind her, a silhouette bathed in moonlight, a twisted, knotted figure wrapped in shadows. Sarah's blood ran cold, panic electrifying her limbs. "Get in!" Sarah yelled, jamming the truck's gear into reverse. The engine sputtered, struggling against her frantic instincts. But it didn't matter. The woman's screams rang out again, swallowed by the growl that now came too close for comfort. Ethan pressed his palms against the window, straining to see through the blur of branches and moonlit fog. "What's happening? Mom, what is that?" "I don't know," she shouted, frantically gripping the wheel while glancing backward. The creature's grotesque head loomed in the forest, eyes glowing like dying embers. "We have to move!" The truck jolted as she slammed it into drive, tire squalling against the uneven ground. But the moment the wheels began to turn, a screech pierced the stillness, a bone-chilling, blood-curdling wail that fanned the flames of her fear. "Mom!" Ethan's voice rose in pitch, terror spilling from his lips. "She's caught! What if?" "I can't think about that," Sarah cut him off, squeezing the wheel until her knuckles were white. The darkness seemed to stretch like an inbound tide, ready to pull them under. The growl rolled louder, a guttural rhythm of menace closing in. Then, from the corner of her eye, she caught movement. The woman was not a solitary figure anymore. More shapes had surfaced, flitting through the trees beside the truck, and they were all staring. Pale faces with hollow eyes, mouths twisted in silent screams, fingers outstretched as if pleading for their release from whatever horror bound them. "Sarah," Ethan whispered, his voice trembling with terror. "What do we do?" She couldn't look away, the woman's face, a mixture of pleading and warning. Sarah's heart sank, a sympathetic thread weaving through her fear. "Get ready to move," she shouted, forcing herself to focus. Her feet danced over the pedals, anxiety surging through her. But then the growl shifted. A rusty, grating sound mingled with the whispers that crawled into her ears, leaving her mind racing.
"You should have stopped," the voices seemed to chant, echoing in the marrow of her bones. "You should have helped." Just then, the engine sputtered and coughed, clinging desperately to life. Ethan's wide eyes reflected the panic she felt, the understanding that their time was running out. "Mom, do something!" he implored, each frantic tug at her arm pushing her closer to the edge. And then the headlights flickered, once, twice, before plunging them back into darkness. The shadows were closing in, a suffocating barrier of fear. "Hold on!" she screamed, slamming her foot down one last time. But everything went black as the truck spluttered, fading into the silence of the unseen horrors. In that moment, Sarah couldn't shake the truth. In choosing to escape, they might be running right into the arms of death. As the growls reached a fever pitch and the shadows seemed to grow teeth, one haunting question clawed at her thoughts. Were they already too late to find the way out? Darkness engulfed them, a thick shroud that stripped away any notion of safety. The truck's engine coughed one last time and fell into a maddening silence. Every heartbeat echoed in Sarah's ears, pounding against the panic that gripped her throat. "Mom, we're stuck!" Ethan's voice trembled, rising in pitch, but it was drowned out by the growl that reverberated through the trees, deep and ominous. The shadows outside vibrated, alive with malice. Sarah fumbled with her seatbelt, hands shaking. "We need to get out, now!" Struggling against the enveloping dread, she glanced at the windshield. The shapes loomed closer, lost souls dressed in the fabric of night, twisted faces staring blankly, eyes pleading for salvation that would never come. "Are they dead?" Ethan whispered, fear crystallizing his voice. He clutched his knees, looking smaller than ever, a child lost in a nightmare. "I don't know," Sarah replied, her voice barely a whisper herself. She had an overwhelming urge to bolt, but where? The woods were a maze of shadows. The growl transformed into a roar, and something crashed against the side of the truck, sending vibrations rattling through the frame. The air thickened with fear, every molecule alive with the understanding of imminent danger. Ethan screamed, "Mom, we need to go, now!" The windshield shattered as claws slashed through, glinting coldly in the moonlight. Sarah jerked back, eyes wide as she tried to fathom what was outside. It was a mass of long, sinewy limbs and dripping jaws, like something that crawled out of a waking nightmare. "Get down!" she yelled. Ethan didn't hesitate. They crouched low, breaths held, hearts racing. But the creature was relentless. It pawed at the truck, dislodging more of the windshield, howling in a language of anguish. The whispers echoed. "Help us." "Mom," Ethan whimpered, pressing his face into her leg, desperate to disappear. The truck rocked violently as the beast pressed its weight against them. Sarah's heart raced, a wild drum that ceased to sync with her thoughts. Was this the end? She thought of the woman, and terror struck deeper. "Ethan, listen to me," she said, fierce determination rising within. "When I say go, we run for the trees, okay? We can't stay here." "The woman! We can't leave her!" he pleaded, tears streaking his dirt-smudged cheeks. "She's gone!" Sarah snapped, surprised by her own harshness. "We have to survive!" Suddenly, the force against the truck ceased. Silence, profound and deafening, blanketed them. The air felt charged, as if the creature was making a choice. A dull thud resonated, and the shadowy figures that had surrounded them began to step backward, as if the darkness itself was retreating. "Mom?" Ethan's voice was small, trembling. In that moment of hope, Sarah dared to look through the jagged remnants of the windshield. The night was eerily still, but the shadows were shifting, retreating into the trees like water down a drain. But then an otherworldly scream shattered the stillness, piercing through the night with a sound that froze her blood. "Get ready!" she shouted, flipping open the door and dragging Ethan along. They stumbled out into the cool night, practically colliding against the chaos around them. The figures stood still, their hollow eyes reflecting pain and loss. The growling roared back to life behind them, but Sarah pushed Ethan ahead, their feet hammering against the ground. "Run!" she screamed. But as they sprinted into the forest, the ground twisted and shifted, revealing a path littered with remnants of lost souls, their whispers a chilling chorus echoing through the trees. The familiar flicker of headlights illuminated a fork in the path, beckoning, teasing her with conflicting choices. Ethan glanced back, his expression tormented. "Mom, what if it follows us?" In that heart-stopping moment, another crash resonated behind them, and Sarah felt a primal fear wash over her. Was escape within reach, or were they racing deeper into hell? As they tore through the trees, one question lingered unvoiced between them. Would the choice they were making lead them to safety, or plunge them deeper into despair? Branches whipped against them like skeletal hands as they scrambled through the underbrush, breaths coming in ragged gasps. The growl was a constant reminder, an echo that chased them deeper into the darkness. "Mom, where do we go?" Ethan's voice cracked, a note of sheer terror ringing in it. "Just keep moving," Sarah urged, pushing her legs harder. The path split ahead, illuminated by the glow of the headlights. With only a moment's hesitation to glance around for any sign of their pursuer. The heavier silence settled, swallowing their frantic footsteps, leaving behind the ghostly whispers of the lost souls. The shadows ahead shifted, flickering in the peripheral of her vision. Sarah's heart raced. Something was watching them. "Mom?"
Ethan looked up at her, eyes wide with the same panic that clawed at her throat. Which way? Both paths loomed dark and threatening, each beckoning them toward an unknown fate. The road to the right appeared less traveled, an overgrown lane hidden beneath tangled vines. To the left, a well-worn path wound deeper into the forest, but it was lined with patches of ombre light, eerie yet familiar. "Mom!" Ethan's voice pierced her conflicted thoughts. "Left!" she shouted, the instinct to run overpowering the logic of choice. The moment they stepped into the path, the growl erupted into a deafening roar behind them. They sprinted, but every footfall echoed the chaos. It was a race against time, and the beast hunting them. The trees closed in, branches clawing at their jackets as they pressed on, fear urging them forward. Suddenly a shriek pierced the air, high and spine-chilling. A flash of white light blared from the left, catching Sarah's attention. She skidded to a halt. What was that? "Mom, we have to go!" Ethan tugged at her sleeve, but curiosity pulled her closer to the illumination. In the depths of the shadows, it glimmered like hope, a gas station, a beacon in a nightmare. "Just a little farther," she whispered, caught between dread and desperation. It no longer felt like a sanctuary. Thin, trembling fingers of smoke curled around the structure. The windows were dark, but the neon signs flickered like restless spirits trapped in a glass prison. Before she could decide, something dark and massive hurtled past them, stalking through the trees like a predator. The stench of wet earth mixed with decay filled the air, rolling in waves that made their skin crawl. "Inside!" Sarah screamed, yanking Ethan toward the door. They stumbled through the entrance of the gas station. The door slammed behind them, the sound reverberating like a gunshot. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with silence, a ghost of a place abandoned long ago. Shadows pulled against the flickering fluorescent lights, stretching out into menacing shapes. The air was still, but an unsettling presence lingering, making her skin prickle. "Mom," Ethan whispered as he clutched her arm, his voice a pitiful echo. The reinforced glass windows bore signs of neglect, dust coating everything like a shroud. "Stay close," she instructed, scanning the aisles for signs of life. It felt wrong. Everything felt wrong. The shelves stood empty, a graveyard for lost dreams and forgotten moments. A muffled thump echoed from the back room, then silence. Sarah's instinct screamed, demanding she turn back, but the growl outside still rumbled, a patient beast waiting, hungry. She approached the counter, her heart hammering. "Is anyone here?"
Her voice wavered, swallowed by the oppressive stillness. A flicker in the back room drew her gaze. A shadow flitted just beyond the doorway. Sarah hesitated, dread pooling in her stomach. Ethan tugged on her sleeve, fear crackling between them like electricity.
"It's not safe here," he pleaded, pulling her with a tinge of urgency. But the curiosity, the need to know what lay beyond the door, bore into her like a festering wound. Somewhere in the depths of her mind, she knew she had to find out. Before she realized it, the door creaked open, slowly, as if someone or something awaited its moment to strike. "Mom," Ethan whimpered, "please." Then, from the shadows beyond, a figure stepped forward, and the air turned cold, filled with the weight of darkness they had narrowly escaped. "Welcome," it rasped, a voice like gravel surrounded by a sinister grin, "to your last choice." How could this be? The fear clutched at her heart, squeezing tighter than ever. Their choices had led them here, but was this path just another dead end, or the beginning of something far more terrifying? As the figure emerged from the shadows, Sarah felt her breath hitch in her throat. It was Carl, but something was unmistakably wrong. His eyes, once friendly, were now dark voids, absorbing the light. The man who had once been a regular face behind the counter now wore a mask of fear, contorted in pain, etched with desperation. "Help me, please," he rasped, the words slipping out like a cry from the depths of the abyss. "Mom, we need to go," Ethan tugged at her arm, pleading. "No, it's him," Sarah's voice trembled. She scanned the gas station, searching for a hint of normalcy in this unfolding nightmare. But the stillness felt like a warning. It was as if the shadows closed in tighter within those hollow walls. "Mom, something's wrong," Ethan insisted, dread lacing his words, his small face twisted in fear. Before she could respond, Carl staggered forward, his movements jerky. "You have to listen. You don't understand what's happening here," he said, the shadows around him weaving like animated threads, alive and intent on ensnaring them both. Sarah struggled between the instinct to flee and the compulsion to reach out. "What do you mean?" she asked, though she already feared the answer. "They're trapped, the ones you see outside. They're lost souls." Carl struggled, voice raw with anguish. "They've been taken by the darkness that creeps in, devouring each life, each hope. I can't fight it anymore." Terror delved deep into Sarah's heart, the weight of the truth crushing her resolve. Ethan squeezed her hand tighter, as if sensing the foreboding suffocating the air. "Carl, we need to help you," she insisted, desperation rising. "No," he shouted suddenly, the shadows clinging tighter. "That's what it wants. It's a trap to pull you in, to make you one of them. You don't want to end up here," he rasped, the flickering lights growing dimmer around him. The growl outside roared back to life, the darkness beyond the walls pressing heavier against the station. Sarah felt small, dwarfed by the suffocation building within and without. She needed to escape, needed to keep Ethan safe. "Ethan, let's move!" she shouted, her voice breaking as she shoved him toward the door. The shadows surged with anger, as if their plan was thwarted. But as they turned to run, the gas station door slammed shut, trapping them in a cacophony of ominous whispers that echoed in their minds. "Mom!" Ethan whimpered, wide-eyed. The figure of Carl twisted in sorrow, pleading. "You can't run. You have to confront the truth of this place, or it will consume you both." "A choice," Sarah whispered to herself. She remembered the figures she had seen outside, the unnatural stench of decay hanging heavy in the air. They were lost, just like Carl.
Suddenly, the shadows pulsed in understanding, stretching and shifting towards them, eager to envelop their hope like a voracious predator. "It's not enough to simply leave this place. You have to break the cycle," Carl warned, sounding desperate, desperate for release. "Find the way to free them. Free yourself." "How?" Sarah shouted, panic creeping in. Carl pointed weakly toward the back room before collapsing to the floor, a soft whimper escaping his lips. "Find the light," he gasped, "or it will take you too." Ethan gripped her hand. "I don't want to go in there." "Neither do I, but we've got to be brave," Sarah replied, steeling herself. The growl outside harmonized with the echoes of the damned. Shadows swept in closer, clawing at the air, forming spectral hands eager to pull them both under. With a shaky breath, Sarah pressed onward, dragging Ethan behind her, determined. They stepped into the back room, the light flickering like the dying heartbeat of the sad remnants of hope. The space was cramped, filled with old boxes and clutter, the smell of mildew hanging heavy in the air. "Mom, look!" Ethan pointed, eyes wide. In the corner, a glimmer caught the light, a faded lantern, dulled but still glowing, pulsating softly. "Maybe that's it! Maybe it can save Carl!" Sarah shouted, her heart igniting with purpose. But then the front door burst open, and darkness flooded in like an angry tide, tendrils reaching out like claws aiming for them with a haunting growl. "Go!" Sarah screamed, the mass of shadows swirling menacingly. She sprinted to the lantern, grabbing it fiercely. The moment she touched the cool metal, it flared to life, bright, blinding, casting away the shadowy tendrils and illuminating the room. The darkness hissed in pain, shrieking like a wounded animal retreating from the light. Vague faces, once twisted in anguish, flickered painfully as they were bathed in hope. "Ethan, we need to break through," Sarah ordered, feeling the energy flow through her veins. The lantern's glow pushed against the shadows, forcing them back. "Mom," Ethan echoed, courage igniting in his small heart. Together they moved toward the door, illuminating their path forward. As they pushed through, the shadows faltered, twisting around the light, but unable to shroud it.
Sarah and Ethan rushed back to the front of the station, the light breaking through the chaotic grips of despair clinging to them. The moment they stepped back outside, a shocking transformation unfolded. The creatures outside, once monstrous shades writhing in torment, began to fade. The gas station, once a den of nightmares, seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Faces once filled with terror turned to expressions of gratitude, ascending toward whatever awaited them beyond the veil of darkness. "We're free! We're free!" Ethan shouted, joy alight in his voice. As they raced toward the truck, Carl's figure flickered, his eyes no longer dark voids, but filled with gratitude. "Thank you," echoed his soft voice. "In memory of the lost," Sarah whispered, her heart pounding, weight lifting from her chest as the weight of despair finally broke. They jumped into the truck, the engine roaring to life with renewed energy. As they sped past the gas station, now a distant memory, the shadows receded behind them, returning to the darkness from which they had come. "We did it, Mom! We really did it!" Ethan cheered, excitement bubbling forth. "Yes, we did," Sarah replied, her heart finally feeling light again. They hadn't just escaped the darkness, but faced it head-on together, breaking not only the curse, but becoming stronger in the process. As they crossed the familiar street, the neon glow of the gas station faded into the mists behind them. Sarah took a deep breath, comfort flooding her.
The world ahead stretched wide with promise and life, and they would face it together, side by side, holding tight against whatever shadows may come. Now it was time to give back and share their story, to ensure that the shadows never returned, that the truth of their journey would illuminate others lost in despair. And as they drove into the horizon, the glow of dawn breaking across the skyline, this was the moment to say goodbye to the past and welcome a future filled with hope and light. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.